Okay, hi everybody and welcome to session 1 of Loyalty Connect 2026. We have a really strong start today with an incredible keynote speaker. He knows everything there is to know about unlocking revenue growth through communities and loyalty because he's done it on multiple occasions. I'm really excited to have here today the former head of marketing at Red Bull, now founder of TENZING. He knows a thing or two about building communities. So really warm welcome to Huib van Bockel.
Well,
Thank
nice
you
to
so
be here.
much for being here today.
Yeah, cool.
Let's get started. Love to hear more about your journey. How did you wind up as head of marketing at Red Bull? What was the path that took you there?
How far back do you want to go?
A good way.
Okay. Well, I'll go back in that sense because my dad was always into marketing as well. So he'd always bring his your little ads home and little products home, and I loved it. And it's quite funny because I just thought that was normal, but my brother and sister didn't really like it at all. So I really loved the whole thing, like what do people like? And so I was really literally, the 10,000 rule. I think I was there before I kind of even went to uni. So so there you could argue it started there. And then I thought when I finished uni, I was like, okay, definitely knew I was going to want to do marketing. And at the time, Unilever, because I was in Holland, and Unilever was kind of known for the best marketing traineeship. So I aimed high, went for it, and somehow got the job. So that's where it started. It was 6 years I was there. But then at one point I realized I really like the creative side of marketing, and I thought, when you're there for 6 years, you become much more of a manager than the creative or the marketing. And then MTV came along, and it was like, do you want to work here as the head of, in Holland, it was like the European head office in Amsterdam, and it was like head of creative and marketing for the Dutch MTV channel, which I loved. So that was great. And it was also before like Facebook was around. Yeah. So we had the first social media platform, there was two social media platforms in Holland at the time, and we had one of them. So I really kind of saw what it took to kind of like content, social media, engagement with community. We did a lot of events. And then Red Bull, I got a call from, whatever, headhunter or whatever you call it, executive search firm, whatever. And the Red Bull was looking for head of marketing in the Netherlands. And I had I would say the perfect background because I had the FMCG stuff for Unilever and all the content stuff, because when I started at Red Bull, YouTube wasn't even around. So our website was still just one of those old Flash websites that just had the office on the front. It was like a picture of the office. I still remember that. So, we were just, then I was I was at Red Bull for 8 years. I was head of marketing for Holland first, then for Europe, and then for the UK. So I was really part of that whole transition from Red Bull, from an energy drink to like a media company it is kind of now. Yeah. So that was really cool and exciting to be part of. And then the last bit to TENZING,
almost, nearly.
Okay, fine.
I mean, that's an incredible, if I think back to when I started working in marketing and, Facebook was a thing, but it wasn't being used for ads. PPC
exactly.
was just kind of coming into existence. I was a copywriter and I was stuffing everything with links and keywords, and it was all very sort of dark art, but media and creativity wasn't really coming into it outside of advertising.
No, exactly.
At that point.
I remember when Facebook came, there was one guy in the team who I remember very well. He says, "This is going to be big," because all of it was like this American website. We weren't allowed to get because you had to have like your Harvard email and a Stanford email, where you had to be a US student.
Yeah.
But actually, how it caught on, maybe people don't remember this really, but it was really just about like the global aspect of it. So you'd have like a friend still that you'd met in Spain, and you'd try and find him, and that's why we got beaten straight away, because it was like this, people wanted to be on it. And then second was obviously then getting the amount of friends. So there's just this competition started. How much friends do you have?
Yes, I remember it.
And there's like whatever 150 friends, whatever was the kind of the gold standard.
Yeah.
And the wall they had, they started that thing. So I think, that was the kind of key, because with us, you could just go to someone's, you'd have your profile and you'd leave a little message on your profile. So there wasn't kind of a wall. Yeah. But it was really still cool because we connected it to TV. So you made your profile and you then text TV, you'd see your picture on TV.
That is cool.
Yeah, and then through that you could ask the VJs, the DJs that were on, the video jockeys, you could ask them questions. And so it's really, it was quite technical, advanced. Yeah. But, MTV I think they just stopped playing music in the last year. So that was kind of the end of an era. But when I was there, it was still very, very cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite the journey. And a lot of different platforms have obviously come into fruition from during that time.
Yep.
What about today? You've now founded another very successful drinks company, TENZING. Tell us about that journey.
Well, yeah. So, like I said, I was at Red Bull, and then I loved the brand, loved the people, but I fell out of love with the product. And actually, I even pitched internally, like, we should launch a natural version. And it wasn't. It's really funny if I kind of analyze it, looking back, and it wasn't that then they said no, and then it wasn't like, oh, then I'm gonna do it myself. I think it was like 4 years before that I said, like, let's launch this. They said no, and it was kind of just, it was there on the background.
Yeah.
And then, you basically, after 8 years, I was like, was this really... So there's more different reasons. And then I started a business before as well, by the way, which I kind of sold, but like, break even. I didn't earn a lot. I learned a lot from that.
Yeah.
And then I thought, I just want to give it a go. And I think it's like this urge that you feel. I really had this strong urge. I think maybe it's like comparable to like, if you can sing or something. You can sing a bit and you think, I should just go for it, because I'd be like, it'd be a waste if I didn't try. Yeah. And I always felt, because I was very stubborn, my bosses, I never listened, and I was always like, I always thought I knew better.
Yeah.
And then I got a lot of success out of that, but also a lot of like, people going, God, he's, annoying. So I thought, and that urge also, like, I want to do it myself. If I think I know better, let's prove that, like, And that is cool about starting your own business. You do really get the sense of what you are really capable of, and also what you're not. So I think that was like, those kind of, all those urges came together, and then I had this product, and then I left, and I thought, okay, my basic insight was just energy from nature for nature. Because I've always been an outdoors person. I'm never really into all the Formula Ones and because Red Bull has this big, motorsports bit that I was never really that keen on. I love surfing, climbing, running, all the outdoor pursuits I'm more into. Yeah. So I thought, okay, let's build a brand around that idea of like, we take our energy from nature. Yeah. We experience energy in nature when we run and ski, and we kind of, we want to give it back to nature. So that was the concept. And then I was lucky enough, so then I was traveling. And then, because then obviously when you start your business, you need a recipe and a name. Those are the two main things. Yeah. And then I was traveling in Asia, and I found, what the Sherpas drink. So the Sherpas are very, so they're the very, like, the most famous for climbing the highest mountains. They live in Nepal. And they drink a really strong tea with salt. And they drink like lemon tea. So those are the two main drinks. And I had a nutritional doctor that helped me at the time. And I said, is this a cultural thing, or is it actually beneficial? And he goes, no, it's very beneficial, because it's like a triple hit of natural caffeine, vitamin C, and electrolytes. Even before electrolytes was kind of big. This is 10 years ago now. And that became the base of the recipe. Yeah. It didn't taste anything like it. And then I thought, let's call it TENZING. So TENZING was the first man on Mount Everest in 1953.
Yes. Amazing.
And again, coming back to my dad was always, I think he was 10 when Sherpa Tenzing climbed Everest. And he always loved the story and told me the story, because it was like, it's the ultimate underdog story of, someone, dreaming. He was the only man whose personal Everest was actually Everest. Yeah. And he made it happen, against all odds, because it was very like, in those times, it was very like, it was the Swiss and the English, very colonial. It was like, who's going to go to South Pole first, And who's going to go first to Everest? Yeah. And the fact that a local guy made it there first in an English expedition was just really unique. And I thought TENZING sounds amazing. Zing is energy. Absolutely. So I reached out, went there. You don't actually need permission. Funny enough, I found out, because it's a very regular name in that area. Same as someone from Nepal would call their drink Jack. But I thought I want their permission. Went out, and they, got their blessing. They're partners in the business. I speak to the family nearly on a weekly basis, so they're very close to the family. There's actually a movie coming out on Sherpa Tenzing. Okay. Yeah, with Tom Hiddleston and stuff.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. So that's gonna be this year. Fantastic. Yeah. So it's been an amazing journey in that sense.
Absolutely, it is. I'm sure a lot of our audience understand that urge that you felt and are feeling it, have felt it themselves, and it's lovely. As soon as you land on your website, it screams all of those things you've just talked about. It's very clear that the people buying TENZING products have a passion for the same things that you have a passion for.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
It's, it's great. That's a fantastic story. Thank you so much for sharing it. So 2 big brands, 2 very strong communities. In your experience, how important would you say community is to driving growth for a brand?
Yeah, so I even wrote I wrote a book next to my job, and then I kind of republished. I wasn't allowed to publish it under my own name at Red Bull because then they were like, you're giving away Red Bull secrets. So they were okay that I wrote it, but it wasn't allowed, so I did it anonymously. But then I republished it under my own name when I left. And it's not about Red Bull at all. Actually, I don't even mention them. But it's really about the thing that I really believe in, which comes back. It's called the social brand, and it's all about. And I call it the brand bank account. So it's basically how much do you give. If you give, so it's just a brand is in that sense a person. We use it a lot, but I think if I give you something of value, whether it could be a small thing, what if I open your door? You'd be like, that's a little bit of a thing that I do for someone else. You as humans, we like that, and especially if it's like unconditional. So I really believe in that principle of giving people something of value. And an ad, a pure ad is not that. You're watching something else and an ad interrupts what you're watching. You have to endure an ad at the end of the day. While if you're watching a piece of content, again, Red Bull is very good at that, creating amazing content, and other people would put ads in front of our content. So it's quite, if you think about it, it's quite cool, right? You go someone wants to watch, because it's something from Red Bull or Tenzing, and then they have to watch something else
to get to it. Yeah.
To get there. Not that Red Bull does ads, I do ads, but I think you have to have a balance of that. You have to have enough of those stuff that you people actually give. But I think also very important, and not to be underestimated, and probably the most important thing is product. I am not I'm not of the school of the start with why school, although I'm a big believer in doing something for people. I'm a B Corp. We carbon label. I could go on. We Rainforest Line certified, ingredients. But I didn't start there. You have to start with a product that will actually do something for people. And Red Bull's a great example of that, because it was for the first time ever. It was energy in a drink. It was an energy drink. You could just sell that product in 2 words: an energy drink, and that was that in itself made people just crazy about it and very loyal. And for us, the idea is very simple as well. It's we just call it good energy. It's life's too good for bad energy is kind of what we say. It's you don't need that bad stuff to get the good energy, So I think you should have a very clear, simple product that is unique, that is relevant, and that's the first driver of your loyalty, right? Before loyalty programs kick in, you can't afford them in the beginning, right? Or you don't have a website, maybe even.
Do you have a mailing list?
No, you don't have a mailing list, nothing.
Who can repeat purchase because they haven't purchased for the first time.
Exactly. And even people with Red Bull, they forget that. It was just there was no Formula One teams. There was not even ads, right? It was just a product you could pick up at your local. It wasn't even cool stores, because I was a student when Red Bull launched, and it was literally in the most dodgy, shawarma place. There was Red Bull. But everyone was talking about it because it was forbidden in Germany. It was a once in a generation kind of launch. Red Bull was, because there was such a rumor around it. Whatever, 20 cups of coffee, whatever. People died. And oh my God!
Everybody wants to try.
Everyone wants to try it. I lived in a student house. I lived in a student house in Holland, where people would use stuff that was whatever, in the heyday of the 90s, but no one dared try a Red Bull, because I remember it was on the table and it was oh my God, has everyone taken a sip yet? That's how bizarre it was.
Fantastic.
And there's not a lot of products that start that way. It just exploded.
Yeah, I remember being at uni and the cars with a big can of Red Bull on the roof, driving around giving it out to students.
Exactly. So that was also a very big part of their program in the beginning. Just get the product in hand, and that's also a good example that we do a lot of that. And then you have to have trust in the product, right? Because you're giving away products and no one's coming back, because it's an expensive program. It's way cheaper to buy a Facebook ad than to buy a car, get people, manage all those people,
and give away the product.
Give away the product. That's a very, very expensive program. But it works because people come back. So I think that's where you need to start. You need to start with a really unique product, that hasn't been done. And I think that we always really believed we had something we were the first ones. Also, if you think about the drink space in the UK right now, you got the likes of Trip and the Dashes, now you've got the Hip Hops and all the other ones and we were the first ones. We were the first drink. Obviously you had Fever Tree, but that was more premium. You know, it wasn't about like it's healthier or like, you know, it's more like, you know.
And it's tied to gin in my head.
Yeah, it's like gin, it's like, you know, whatever, great and just amazing. But like we were the first kind of better for you alternative in the drink space in the UK. So that was really cool. I think, you know, it's really nice. And also with way lower sugar. So we took about 60% of our sugar out. Didn't replace with any sweeteners. And now that has kind of become the norm as well. Like, you know, the likes of Dashi even gone further, of course. But it's really cool that that's this kind of, that we all know each other. They're a great group. You know, we're all trying to kind of change the drinks industry. So it's a fun place to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tough, but.
And you mentioned Red Bull giving out cans, etc. I believe you have quite a strong events strategy with your community, half marathons, things like that. Is that right?
So that is all. Like I've always, my philosophy is always, if you listen. Don't listen to advice people give you. Because it's so, like, that's also the way I hate, like, I don't know, I always bang on about that, I hate with the start with why. Because it's such a, you know, it sounds great.
Yeah.
But, you know, every business is so different. Like, you have to think about, but I think if there's one thing that every business has that makes them successful, and that you should always follow, is focus. Right? No matter how big the business now, we just talked about Facebook, right? You have to have a Harvard email. You know, and there's interviews from him right in the beginning where his colleagues were saying, let's go to Stanford. And he's like, no, I want to perfect the product here at Harvard. Because he could speak to people, he could listen, you know, how are people using it?
Yeah.
And I don't know, it wasn't that long, probably in the grand history of like, you know, Facebook, but it was like, you know, significant enough to him make the products that good that he could do to next uni, like, you know, or Strava is an amazing example, right? They just had an app that could track effort. So they could have launched that straight away, every sport you move, but they only did cycling. So for about 3-4 years, they only did cycling. And apparently I listened to podcasts of those guys, and they're like, the biggest debate was, when do we open it for running? And they were like, no, let's not do it. Let's make it richer for the cyclists.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, that's the approach we took as well at Tenzing. And I didn't really know that theory as much then yet. I just experienced it, and then later I started looking and I said, oh yeah, every business started that way. But for me, it was just like a necessity because, and I think that for most, that is also the reason, because I knew I was up against the biggest dogs in the world of marketing, right? You know, you don't get them bigger than Red Bull, Monster, Coke, Pepsi, right? So like, and it's also not a digital product, which you can, so it's like literally I had to fight my way into the supermarkets. And then, so I realized, you know, and I knew their budgets, like you're talking about, their Formula One budget is already for like hundreds of millions. So you're talking about, you know, their global marketing budget, you know.
Really off the scale, yeah.
Billion? I don't know. That's been a while since I left. But, you know, so it's like, how do you beat that? By going really deep into 1 or 2 communities.
Yeah.
And that's what we did,
Makes sense. And I think you said, actually, a lot of your growth and success hasn't necessarily been D2C. It's been from selling through Amazon, etc. to begin with. Yeah.
Well, Amazon, even not Amazon, I was really kind of, I was in that sense, although I was always part of that social, like, you know, we had social media. I thought I wanted to make this a real life experience. So I just went kind of, you know, we went that community first, our first community. So it was really funny because I went there in Nepal, of course, that's where it came from. And then my first marketing budget I blew on building bins on Mount Everest. So, because I was talking to Jumling, the son of Sherpa Tenzing, and I was like, because at the time, in 2016 when I launched, it had a lot of press around that it was very littered, you know, Mount Everest. And I was like, what could we do? And I was like, could we go there, send people there, cool content, you know, do these cleanups?
Yeah.
And he goes, cleanups, don't do anything, we need bins. And I'm like, oh, really?
Very glamorous.
Very glamorous. Literally my first money ever spent on bins. And we still do that now. So we've changed that into a program where people have to carry, you know, so we've got the Carry Me Back program. So as we get as many people to, you know, carry the rubbish back down.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. So that's like a program that, so in that sense, it's evolved. But of course, I was like, okay, how do we take that kind of climbing ethos, the outdoor ethos, into London? And bouldering just started out. You know,
it has got very popular.
Yeah, and now extremely popular. So when we started, it was like, you know, 2016, so there were like 1 or 2 bouldering walls in London. got in touch with those, and now there's like 45 in London alone. And we are like very part of that community. I love bouldering myself. I boulder twice a week. We're going to have, in our new office, we're going to have a bouldering wall inside.
Okay.
So it's really, we live the community.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, very interesting because big companies cannot do that.
No.
And there you've got your extreme leverage already versus the big companies.
Yeah.
Because no other CEO or whatever is going to go out bouldering in that community, right? So, I think in that sense, and we hire people from that community, and so I think that was really our number one aspect. And then you kind of, once we thought, okay, now we've really got a good, feel for this, we're available on this climate, we added another one, which is running. And then it's more like to run clubs, and because I'm a keen runner, I love running. I actually do that more to keep sane than anything.
Yeah.
But then we thought, okay, let's go into run clubs, and then we went into gyms. So it's like really slowly but surely adding more communities. But then on the side we did go to retail. Tesco was our first customer. Already started in 2017. So we were like, so we didn't do the D2C thing first. We really did like, communities plus retail, because you need the retail in our case to kind of get a bit of like volume ticking over.
Yeah.
Because just from the communities you don't enough turnover.
Yeah, makes sense.
So that was the combo that worked for us. And only just before COVID, we were lucky. Actually, just before COVID, we went on Amazon. That kind of saved us actually, because otherwise, without that, we wouldn't have made it.
And do you see becoming more D2C led as a focus? As a next step, or?
Yeah, well, coming back to your main program, so we see on Amazon that we have the highest loyalty of any soft drink. So the average soft drink repeat purchase like 50, we're like 80.
Incredible.
So and we do nothing, right? We don't do any programs. I mean, we have the subscribe. You got the subscribe and save. But it's just the product. I think there's nothing like it, because we were like totally new. There's nothing like it with this is low calorie, it's lower sugar, it's all natural. And people actually, funny enough, they join the brand, they start because they're looking for a better for you alternative.
Yeah.
They stay because it gives them a better effect. So 91% say they give the same amount of energy as an artificial energy drink, but without the crash. So it's just better, it just feels nicer.
Yeah.
Does the job better that people want it to do, and secondly, the refreshing flavor. So that's why people come back. But now we realize, okay, we've got this larger community, so we are now going to go focus more on D2C for sure. So that is like only focus over the last, let's say, year and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really interesting journey. And to go back to everything you were saying around, I love that you've got the bins on Everest, and we're seeing a lot more brands use their loyalty programs to connect on that kind of shared passion, shared cause.
Yeah, okay.
So it could be that you can exchange your points for a charitable donation.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cool. Do a lot of people do that?
Yeah, a good amount.
That's cool.
Or points for recycling packaging, that kind of thing. So we are seeing a lot more people. There are a lot more brands out there that have this kind of very passionate ethos, which is fantastic to see. But it's really interesting to see the growth in sort of sustainability elements of loyalty programs coming in. And I think it's really powerful, because we do each care about different things. And when you find the brand that cares about the same thing that you do,
exactly.
you do feel more connected. You do want to buy from that brand or another one that doesn't perhaps share the same.
Yeah, well, that's very cool, because it's really, especially because you've got so much like Netflix programs now that, the Seaspiracy one, for instance. And I remember we've got all these like little, we've got, like I said, B Corp, Rainforest Alliance, we carbon label, infinitely recyclable aluminium cans.
Yeah.
And someone, I remember we did this qualitative research group, one we did ever, and then we thought, never do that again. And there's one guy who said, when they say these things, that means they're worse.
Oh, that's
because he just watched Seaspiracy. So you go like, really? And we spend so much time and money and effort in that stuff. And people just, and I totally get it, right? I don't judge you in that sense, because people don't have the time to like really dig deep. But I think if you make it very specific through those points, that's where people, because people are inspired by it, And I think the thing that we're doing now, we've just started that with the family again. So we said, like, how can we take the bin building? Because I was always like, I love it, but, and then we've got this program now, exactly. So, because what happens is about 60,000 people go up to Everest, not climb Everest per se, but it's just obviously just a beautiful area, right? You go to base camp, or you go to other places. You can climb other smaller amounts of 6,000 meters, whatever. But also, you just got, it's the most beautiful place. Like, you know. But it's hard, like, you know, so there's only like 7,000 locals that live there.
Right.
And then, but there's 60,000. So we said, okay, can we use that movement of people to take all that rubbish down?
Yeah.
So you got like, you can come back, you can bring like 1 kilo of what's a little TENZING bag.
Yeah.
It's pre-filled for you, and then all you have to do is when you walk by, you take it down.
That's brilliant.
But it's so cool, right? Because it's like, and then those are things that people love to do. You just had a beautiful time there. I mean, it's like physically it'll be a bit tougher. Some people even took 2 or 3 bags. But you just get a good feeling, like I left nothing behind.
Yeah, I think the adrenaline and then the feeling that you were contributing to something, something good.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think is also with the points bit, if you can just kind of make it tangible, because everyone wants to make a positive difference, right?
Yes,
But it's just like...
And make it as easy as possible.
Make it easy, but also just inspiring and somehow. Like, you know, I think that would be amazing to do.
Yeah, I'm trying to, there was a program I joined very recently, Marks and Spencer's. You actually choose the charity that you want your points and donations to go to.
Okay.
They have a whole selection and you can choose the one that personally matters to you.
Yeah. And what do they then? So you say I would give 1,000 points away, for instance, to a charity, then the brand then gives money to that charity.
Yes, so rather than you unlocking a £10 reward spend, it's £10 that goes to the
Okay, amazing, yeah, cool.
Yeah, and I think the recycling initiatives and things like that, I see a lot of beauty brands doing that kind of
Yeah.
It's working really well. But you have your offsetting carbon emissions as well for subscribers, I believe, as well?
Yeah, so for the offsetting bit, we've because that's also another good example of what I just mentioned with the guys had seen Seaspiracy. It's a real interesting time right now in the sustainability space because they're really clamping down on all these messaging, the government, especially the EU. And also the media, you know, and I think it's good and bad, because it's good to be critical, you know, because if people are greenwashing, that shouldn't be done. But if it goes from critical to skeptical, then why would a brand do anything?
Yeah.
You know, so for us, so we stopped the whole offsetting bit. And I know because there was a lot of like, you know, we looked into it a lot. And there was indeed, you know, you'd plant trees, but were these trees planted kind of anyway? And it was a lot of money, and people thought we were greenwashing, you know. So it's interesting, isn't it? It's like and that's why that's why we're trying to now focus on actual programs, so as opposed to saying and also in that sense I understand why it's a bit greenwashing, because it's never carbon neutral, right? So what we do, we carbon label. So we say we know exactly our whole carbon footprint from crop to can. Right. We know, and ideally in a world, everyone would do that. So you'd actually compare, but no one else does it. We're the only soft drink or the only energy drink that does it. Right. But our carbon footprint will be way lower than all of our competitors. But you know, I think we want to kind of now do. So we'll keep doing that, but we'll now do more programs like the Carry Me Back program to kind of get people just really involved. You know, that is 100% actual impact. Like no one will doubt that. We can just say, hey, you know, we and you and us together took down 80,000 kilos of rubbish off Everest. Yeah. So that is just real numbers. So I think as a brand, you have to navigate that space of real impact, but also people have to kind of believe it, because otherwise, you know, it's kind of waste or can even backfire.
And I think that's where authenticity drives communities so much, doesn't it? Because, you know, if you can be very genuine and your community can see everything very transparently, but also we're seeing a lot of founder-led marketing now. That adds to a layer of authenticity as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And another thing we're seeing people do with their programs is actually the opportunity to connect with a founder. If you're a top tier member, and there's a brand that's released this very recently, top tier members get access to a dinner with the founder.
Okay.
They can ask all their questions.
Okay.
You know, you can.
Well, if people want to have dinner with me,
there you go. Who's paying? But we also see people offering things like tours of the factory, tours of where the products are made, and I think that's becoming increasingly important. That visibility into how you operate as a whole, as a business. If you are a very, very present, visible founder, what can you do with your community to really bring it to life?
Exactly.
Bring that authenticity.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Yeah, because we've got so we're gonna go into that office like the 1st of June, but it's really gonna be a proper we've built it in that way. So the upstairs bit is like our office, and the downstairs all community.
Fantastic.
So we'll have a little plunge pool, have a climbing wall, and like a bar, and like we can host run clubs because there's like a track right around the corner. There's like a lot of like parks around the corner. We literally chose it for that.
Wow.
So and a lot of run clubs in London, they want to kind of be able to leave their bags, have a like drink before and after. So it was really thought, the whole space was really thought of from community first. But we haven't yet thought that we could maybe do it that way as well, where we go, now it's already kind of hosting that current communities. We're hosting them, but it's also cool to kind of really do it as a reward system for our hardcore fans and users.
Yeah, and perhaps I think we were talking before about focus groups, and I know you said you had qualitative feedback sessions, and they can be a bit uncomfortable, but I think one of the most powerful things a loyalty program can do is give you a feedback loop.
Yep.
Not just in terms of, as well as the products that people are buying, you start to get a feel for behaviours. You know, what do people claim as free products? Do they care about free shipping more than they care about discounts?
Exactly.
What do people actually want when they connect
exactly.
with a brand? But then we also see people offer, again, top tier members the opportunity to be part of a focus group. And typically, if you give people the opportunity to input into a product, they're then the first people to buy it and the first people to come back and buy it.
100%.
Again and again.
That's
so
that
it could
whole.
be an interesting way to use that.
And we do that. That whole. It's the whole philosophy of you always think your own baby is the most beautiful one, right? So I think if you co-create something, that is really powerful, and we do that a lot with our customers. Actually, we go like because we genuinely, the other brands, again, it's a nice example, like the Coca-Colas and Red Bulls, they can't co-create with their Tesco buyer, for instance, but we can. Because I'm there, I'm like, okay, what flavor works? What kind of functionality works? And we really co-create that. And then we do that we do that more with our customers at the moment than with our, because it's harder to get all the kind of feedback. But we do that where we let people try and or listen to what they're saying. So for instance now, so we're very much like, as I said, running and climbing, but we see a lot of our consumption is, of course, people use it at the office and for focus. So we've taken that feedback now, and there's going to be a new product coming really soon. Can't say it yet, but it'll be probably in about 3-4 weeks.
Oh, great! We'll keep
launch something around that specifically. So
fantastic. Yeah, and I think it's interesting as well using your existing customer base to define your product direction in that way, because then you get this brilliant feedback loop. You can offer your most loyal customers early access to those products when they're released. We see a lot of people using scarcity at the moment and tying loyalty promotions to product drops. So a new flavour, let's say, goes live, sold out within minutes, but only to loyalty program members.
Do that cost them points as well then? Or that is just if you're part of the loyalty program? You
would still have to buy the product. You could still use your rewards on them, but you would just get the early access. So
exactly.
It's more the kudos of first people to try it. First people
so everyone taking part in the program can then just get it first.
They get it first, cool. And then it goes out for general release a bit later. And we see people doing that around Black Friday a lot as well. And I think the other thing is, we were talking about free product rewards earlier. If you have a new flavour that you want to try, but you want to try it in small quantities, then sample sizes as free product rewards, and then ask for feedback on those.
Exactly. And that's the stuff you said that you can get in the supermarket, and then upload and
and then obviously converting people from wholesale to D2C would be seeing what they buy in store.
It sounds super interesting.
Yeah, amazing. I will look forward to the new launch.
Exactly.
Just quickly to go back to Red Bull and the community there, I'm just intrigued to know, a lot of our clients, they want to launch loyalty programs, they want them to be big, they want them to be really rewarding for their customers, but they will meet some kind of resistance at the top. Whether it's the CFO saying, it's going to be too expensive, the liability is too much, or whether it's the CEO saying, you're great, but we've got all these other priorities we want to look at. So I'm just interested to know, was the Red Bull buy-in for community always there? Did it come from the top? Was it something that you had to push for, or was it a community-led brand very much from the get-go?
So there's two answers I'd have to that. It's really interesting, right? Like, because I've been at big companies, smaller companies, and my own companies, and culture is so important, So, and if you want to get a culture, there are people trying new things. It's difficult, But my philosophy is very like, try and find people that don't listen, right? You should find annoying people like myself. You know, so I've got a lot of all my like kind of nearly biggest success things when I wasn't listening. You know, so one of my big stories in that sense that I never won't bore with, but like, you know, we had Max Verstappen when he was 12 in the Netherlands. My head of athletes came to me and said, "This guy's winning a lot." Then you have to call international and say, "Hey, you know, we want this guy." They were like, "I don't think so. He's too young." Blah blah blah. Other reasons, and I signed him anyway. I did it. I just didn't listen.
Good decision.
Yeah, I never got any kudos, nothing. But you know, and it was like, you know, but I think it's a good example of like, if you feel something that's good, just try it. You know, it's like, we did it for a very little amount of money because he was like super young still. Yeah. But it's like, you know, so I think it's interesting. Like, not. If you want to do something, you know, it's that the whole permission instead. What do you call it again? Ask for forgiveness instead of permission. So because I guess you could try these things just in a smaller way, prove them, and I think that's where, like, you know, that's entrepreneurship. Like, you know, I obviously I don't have a boss telling me I'm not allowed to do it. But it makes it even worse, to be honest, because then I try something because I think it's a great idea and actually doesn't turn out to be working, because you never know if your idea will work, because the CEO could be right. CFO could be right, or you could be right, right? But there's only one way to find out. So I think, you know, I would really highly recommend that as a, you know, and I think a company, if they would find out that you would sneakily do a thing like that, and they fire you, then you should be glad they fired you, you know, right? Yeah. You go work somewhere else, because if that attitude is a great attitude to have anyway, you know. So I think that's like something and then for the CFOs of the world and the CEOs, try and nurture it. And it's difficult. It's very difficult, because I say this as a, like, you know, that's why I always loved my early career the most, nearly, because it was like, I was always thinking like, oh my God, if I'd be then the head of marketing, that would be cool. And I always thought it'd be creative freedom. Yeah. So, because then the higher up you get, it wasn't about the ego or the salary. I thought creative freedom, that was always my ambition. Yeah. And the higher up you got, the less creative freedom there was. You know, so even my head of marketing Holland job, first my head of marketing UK job at Red Bull, obviously the last one, way more budgets, way bigger, but less freedom, because it was the second biggest country for Red Bull at the time after the US. Yeah. So everyone was on it. Everyone was looking at it, whatever. Well, Holland was like kind of big. It was like one of the top 10 countries at the time. Yeah. So you had enough budget, but no one cared. So you just play. You know, so there's no such thing. So I think just enjoy, especially if you're younger, just enjoy those first years, and just try and play and do things. You know, and as a boss type person, try and give that freedom. So I think that's the most important.
Yeah, I 100% agree, because I think we all forget to be creative. Yeah. I think we're in marketing. Even if you're in CRM, you know, you're sending out all these messages, all these emails, you've got these great brands to play with, and we're still sending out, here's 10% off, or here's a £10 voucher. And I think along the way, we all get so caught up in the delivery and the day job that we just forget to think outside the box. Yeah,
and it's like, I was listening to this cool podcast of Rick Rubin, you know, Rick Rubin, the big the music producer, and like, you know, Steve Jobs said the same thing, like, you know, about like, just make a product for yourself. He goes, I make music that I love to hear. Like, you know, and he said some of those music he thought it was amazing, didn't do well at all, and some of them he thought it was amazing and did really well. Yeah. And I think, you know, we don't go down to, also that's why the whole kind of ask your community. So for instance, now around the focus area, we've seen that they use it a lot for that purpose. And then we go away and come up with cool stuff, you know, because if you can't really crowdsource amazing ideas, you know, so you get ideas. Actually, that's the key thing. If you speak to your community, and that's how you get your ideas, right? Because they might say something, and then, but at the end of the day, you have to make something that you love. Also, like, people go like, how does your product development go? We've had launched many successful products, and it's just all, I basically just come up with them. And then I do too. So when the flavor then is developed, we just test it all and try it. And I speak to a lot of people, but it is like what I feel is right, you know. And I think that's just that's where innovation kind of comes from, isn't it? You just have to trust your guts, and you know. And I think the more experienced you are, the more your gut works. You know what I mean? That's this famous system, right? Where you kind of, because it's basically your. So I would never be able. So I'm also, I notice that if I can. It's very hard for me to judge ideas that are outside my remit. So I'm not into my alcohol. I remember when Moth came around, for instance, the Moth drink.
Yes, yeah.
I was like, oh, I don't think this is going to work. But I never drink, and it worked really well.
Yeah.
But because it's not my expertise. Well, when I saw a Dash or a Trip, I thought, oh, these are good brands. These are going to work,
Yeah.
Or other brands in my space. I was like, oh, that's not going to work. And then I've always been right.
Yeah.
But it has to be in my little, where I have all that experience, yeah.
That makes sense. Have you had a product that did not fly?
Yeah. So we had once, that was a really cool example as well. It was like, again, with the Tesco buyer, we were like, okay, I thought I wanted to do these shots, because I thought it would be cool, like these little stubby cans, 150 ml cans.
Yeah.
Sometimes they hand them out, Coca-Cola hands them out as sampling cans. And I thought, you had Moju had just come up, and they were doing really well, and Monster, of course, was doing really well, was kind of outpacing Red Bull. Right. And I was like, okay, I'm going to create this little shot. So I was like, the concept in my mind was like where Moju meets Monster. Yeah. So it was like ginger, but also had caffeine, and it was like a little shot that you'd have in the morning. And it was like counter trend, because all the trends were going to bigger cans. And I just thought, let's launch a smaller can. Yeah, didn't work. Sounds amazing though.
Yeah.
It could have maybe worked, but we launched it with Tesco, and it just didn't have the rotation. And I think it's on that big shelf.
Yeah.
So we had real big fans. We could still maybe launch it online one day. But like in that supermarket, but it's a good example, because we tried something, and then we just basically said, hey, we tried it together, that didn't work, and then we replaced it with another. So we actually didn't even lose that space.
Yeah.
We then replaced it with another product. So I think it's a good. I don't regret that at all. It's like it's a good. I think you got to. So one thing I do regret, because you have these minimum runs of cans. So you have 300,000 cans you have to make, but then you have to the 150,000 filling. So there's two things: you have the cans and the filling.
Yeah.
But you can, for an extra fee, make less cans.
Right.
So that is a mistake that I shouldn't have made. So then you go like, okay, we had 300,000 of the shot cans, and I think we had to let a couple of those go, or maybe we did kind of reuse them.
Yeah. See, free product rewards.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. Do you think it's getting harder to retain customers in today's environment than it used to be?
Look, I just think a lot of the innovation is very poor. So for instance, it's interesting, because there's two types. If I look at also the drink space, and again, like I know best, there's two types of innovation. One is like I did it, where I saw trends. So obviously I knew the market really well, and I saw this health trend coming. Yeah. And I said, energy is going to be needed no matter what. Health is going to be needed no matter what. These two trends are going to be big, and they are. And then I thought, let's create something new, natural energy, right? Hadn't been done before. Well, a lot of the trends are taken from the US. For instance, White Claw, hard seltzer is mega successful in the US, and then you got like literally per country in Europe, and there's always some strange stories. Then I went to uni in New York, and I saw it all, and there's like 4 or 5 brands that's launched, and they all kind of fail. Some of them don't, right? There's one in Holland that did really, really well. But then you have to battle a different battle, because there's going to be like 3 or 4 brands and you have to battle straight away. Yeah. And therefore loyalty becomes more difficult, and then price becomes a thing. So I had quite a long runway, because I was like totally unique. Yeah. When I started, there wasn't such thing as a healthy, natural, energizing drink. People hadn't heard of it before. Yeah. So I think if you and again, it sounds like such a no-brainer innovation, doesn't it, if you think about it now? But it's like, it was still unique at the time. So there's a lot of stuff that you can still come up with that is totally unique, I believe, by just combining different things. And then, then you will get stronger loyalty right from the beginning. So I remember, because we launched at Tesco, and I remember she said once, there's 4 categories in Tesco. One is sells very little and people don't leave the store, right? So it's a low rate sale, but then those you buy something else. The second category is doesn't sell a lot, but people will leave the store if it's not there. Third category is, if it's a lot, it sells a lot, but people will not leave the store if it's not there, so they'll just buy something else. And the last category is like, it sells a lot and people will leave the store. Obviously, everyone wants to be in that category, but the second category is more important than the third, right? Because it only sells a small amount, but people will actually leave the store. And we were always in that category. So people would actually go, where's my TENZING, and go out and find it somewhere else. Yeah. And that is like, so and that's why how we always, even with low rates of sales in the beginning, we always kept our space. And I think, so you've got to put the time in and find something that is unique, because if it's not, if there's 4 other brands like yourself on the shelf, then they'll just grab the other one.
Yeah. And I guess if you haven't got a unique product, how do you make the interaction with you and the engagement with you as a brand unique.
Yeah, exactly.
You still have that something.
Yeah, and then they just try and like, and I also think for a retailer, it's important to pick that, so we were the first to do that, stick with that brand, because there's old brands, we have been copied like many, many times, like there's the healthy matcha energy, and there's the focus energy, and they all position them slightly different because they don't want to position them like you, but then the category gets a bit diluted, like what is it really? Yeah. And I think that's the importance that then the head, the buyers go, this is the brand I'm backing. Yeah. And then you have to outspend them as well on other levels, and yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's where it gets slightly confusing for the consumer as well.
Yes, 100%.
And I know for myself, I'm constantly looking at different powders and potions and drinks and everything, and going like, well, actually, which is the right one?
What is that? How much electrolytes do you actually really need?
And that's the big question as well. What do I actually need for the lifestyle I'm living versus what I'm being told by ads I need? And I think, again, where you've got brands that are trying to educate and help support that buying journey at the same time.
Yeah, 100%.
That's powerful from a lot of perspective.
Yeah. You got the kombucha as a really great example. Kombucha trend came, no real clear winner brand, and it was very vague, didn't catch on really. Yeah. It stayed in this kind of niche category. Because one person said, it's like perfect for if you're not having a wine. The other one said, no, it's gut health. The other one said, it's taste. And it's like, what is this thing really? And now only Remedy is now kind of, they're the ones that kind of won. And now they're really doing really well. Yeah. So you need that one brand to lead the way. Yeah. Every brand has that, right? You need a Tesla to go into electric. You need a Vita Coco to do coconut water. You need TENZING to do natural energy to lead that. So I think if you pick too many brands, then people should get confused.
Yeah, and keep it really clear what the benefit.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Perfect. I'm afraid that is all we have time for, but I actually would like to quick fire question because I really want to know what's the one piece of advice you would give to Shopify stores who are looking to scale and build communities today?
Well, it's interesting. It's probably the most difficult advice, but I would give it because I think the more appealing your brand is, the more really thought. Because again, it's a good example, right? It's a very simple example. If your brand is really cool and you really want that T-shirt, you're gonna save up for it, right? But if you're gonna like this really stupid little merch T-shirt with a brand on it that no one really wants to walk around with, then that'll be if you've got an amazing looking water bottle. And it fits there. So I think it really starts to, so in that sense, I'm a bit like, I know it sounds confusing, but I start with that product. So with TENZING, we started with the product that was really good, but it was always the brand. It was about TENZING, it was about the outdoors, it was about like ordinary people doing extraordinary stuff. It was about good energy. It's a really simple message there, but people want to like that brand. So it's harder to catch on in the beginning. So if your brand is called, healthy energy, whatever, or natural, whatever. I'm just saying something. It'll catch on more in the beginning, but not in the long run. So you have to invest in that long run, in that making that brand appealing, because then people want the T-shirts. They want to potentially have dinner with the founder. They want to come to the office and hang out with the team. So I think that is like you gotta think product first, but think brand long term.
Yeah, have a really sort of halo view of what the brand could develop into over time.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. Great advice. Thank you so much. It's been an absolutely fantastic conversation. I could stay here for hours. Unfortunately, that is all we have time for, but huge thank you to Huib for joining us today.